Welcome back to Reclaim Firefighter Fitness. I am your host, Robbie Nebergall. As a former firefighter turned full-time firefighter fitness coach, I want you to know that this podcast is built around one simple belief. It's that your standards will dictate your outcomes. If you're a firefighter who wants more control over your health, your mindset, and your future, this podcast is about the strategies, the perspective that is required to lead yourself first. No motivation, just responsibility. Let's get into it. Well, this might be a hot take, but I don't believe that professionalism is about having a collared shirt. I don't think it's about how pressed your uniform is. I don't think it's about how tidy and polished your boots are. I do believe it's how you carry yourself and the degree to which you take doing the job well seriously. And to go over this, I kind of want to tell you a personal story that I'm sure isn't unique to my experience in the fire service. In fact, I'm sure it's one that is commonplace around the United States that can be understood as a universal experience. Like, I still remember the vein throbbing out of the forehead of an officer as he was talking to the officer in charge of our unit about our uniform alignment. And I remember thinking to myself, man, that can't be good for his blood pressure. But it kind of confounded me to sit here and think, like, we operated on what I would consider to be a very high operating unit. You know, when it came to actually doing the job and getting it done, we did very well. Like, put us up against the best, and we were rocking out. When it came to structure fire operations, came to handling medical calls, it came to like unit autonomy, and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm biased. I might have some of that in me, but that is generally speaking, we operated in a very competent unit with officers that gave their pikemen a lot of autonomy and encouraged them to be critical thinkers in and of themselves. And by others, this was seen as sometimes being an issue. And so what I want to talk about is this disparity. Like, what is professionalism? You know, is it like how presentable your uniform is, or is it how well you're able to do the job when it matters? And like, what are the parts of the job that actually matter? So remember this officer getting worked up and threatening write-ups to me and several others because of like a couple of untucked shirts, like slightly untucked, half untucked, you know, again, in the middle of running calls, in the middle of doing trainings, in the middle of all the stuff that goes on during the day at the fire department, trying to make meals, trying to get on top of everything. It was one of those days, and getting threatened with write-ups because of some scuffed boots and some unkept shirts. And maybe some pants that, you know, were not completely uniform in color. Maybe they had been washed one too many times. Okay. So for a lot of reasons, when we talk in the fire service, like what burns guys out, really it falls under one category. If I'm being really honest, I think it falls under one category, and that's bullshit. Like bullshit either at the station or outside of it. Or you want to know what makes a firefighter jaded? It's going on bullshit calls at 3 a.m, losing sleep over toe pain, and then dealing with bullshit from within the department. Like, sorry, excuse my language, but if we could eliminate those two factors, it would be one of the most amazing experiences in the world. But like, what constitutes as bullshit? You know, if we're being held accountable, we're going to have standards. I agree, we should have standards. But it seems like the biggest problems in the fire service come from people who think that having a collared shirt is more important than how well that shirt fits. Yeah, let's have standards. When I talk about, hey, we should have continuing fitness standards throughout the course of a career, all of a sudden it's this big crazy idea. It's like, how dare you? You don't understand. You haven't gotten old enough yet. It's like, when did those things become mutually exclusive? When did experience and time on become synonymous with like, you have to get out of shape? Because some of the most impressive firefighters I've seen have been in their 40s and 50s. When it came to physical attributes, when it came to combining experience with taking care of your body long-term, I've seen it, that it's possible. So we can't just act like, hey, this is something that happens to everybody and that's our convenient excuse out. No. But why do we talk about having standards when it comes to how you dress? Like, no, we have uniform standards, okay? Then we start talking physical standards for the job after your CPAT, And it's like the most outrageous idea we've ever heard of. You say, think of the fire service, these people tend to confuse appearance with standards. And appearance not even like with your body, appearance with your uniform, polished uniforms. It's an easy thing to enforce, especially if you are the type of person that likes to enforce things. Physical readiness is harder. One can look professional, your collared shirt, but I would say this too. Do any of your patients in their true dire straits and times of need, are they looking at you and thinking, well, I don't like those tattoos. Oh, they showed up in just a t-shirt. Which, by the way, like, how many of your departments are out there saying, like, you got to have a collared shirt up until 3 o'clock and then you can take it off? Like, oh, that's when the switch flips and all of a sudden it's, like, okay to have a t-shirt on. It's like when we were during COVID, you know, and people were wearing masks at restaurants and you could take it off at the table. But then when you got up, it's like, you better put that mask back on. It's like, what do we do? Like, what? Everybody's sitting in the room with the mask off, but if you get up from the table, all of a sudden there's this imaginary force that is going to make it so that you spread everything when you get up and move around the room. So what, our professionalism cuts off at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? If that's how we're going to measure it, like, we're on for 24 hours. Make that make sense. What's the professionalism that is available to you 24/7? What if we didn't measure it by how pressed and collared your shirt was? Say, I will maintain, like, the public doesn't care about your collar. Not when Meemaw's stuck between the toilet seat and the bathtub. Not when their loved ones had a cardiac arrest in front of them. You think that the first thing they're going to think about is, well, at least that guy has a collared shirt. At least his tattoos are covered. At least he doesn't have tattoos. No. They're going to care. Like, can you do something for me or the people that I care about when it matters most? So what's the definition of being a firefighter? Is it walking around with a collared shirt, or is it being able to do the job well? You know, patients, victims, they care if you can move and lift and think clearly and carry and make good judgment calls and not become the patient yourself when things go sideways. I'd be willing to put money on that. Truly. And I think these people that try to deflect with the professionalism standard, okay, you're going to have a polo on, you're going to have XYZ, you're going to have your boots polished every morning. That's not a leadership signal. That's something that they can control, that they can enforce, that they can try to hold over you. But the real leadership signal has nothing to do with the type of shirt you're wearing. It has everything to do with how you present yourself and carry yourself, the type of person that you are. And the truth is that fitness in the fire service is one of the most important leadership signals there are. And I will die on this hill. So you don't even need a title, right? And I'll steal from Simon Sinek in the sense that it's not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. You don't need the title. There is a difference between leaders, people in positions of authority, and those who lead. When you think about the firefighters around you, the people that you would follow into hell and back, what are their qualities? Does it have anything to do with their uniform? Does it have to do with how they carry themselves when you've seen them get squeezed under pressure? How they show up in a room? The kind of influence, the kind of presence that they have. You see, your conditioning, your fitness tells the crew what is acceptable without saying a word. So what's acceptable? What kind of standard are you willing to accept? Is it about the collared shirt, or is it about how well it fits? I'm not talking about having a six-pack. Your job is not to have a six-pack. Your goal is not to have a six-pack and to be 6% body fat. Your goal is to be able to do this job the entire time you're doing it well. That's professionalism. Real professionalism. Shows up under load. It's not a shirt. It's not a logo. It's not making sure all the station chores are done above everything else. Sure, should you do your station chores? Absolutely. I'm not saying don't do your station chores. What I am saying is that the ability to do the job and running the calls and serving the community and the public comes first. That comes first. You know where professionalism actually shows up? The real test is when it's under fatigue, stress, heat, chaos. These things expose the truth. How you operate in those moments when it's difficult, that is the test. Can you stay professional and stay as the person you want to be when you are called to that call at 3 a.m. for somebody that's already called 3 times this week, and it's so that you can take them to the hospital yet again for itchy teeth. Real story. Real personal story. Can you keep composed under those circumstances? Is that not more of an indicator of professionalism than the shirt that you wear? And to anyone that pretends otherwise, ask yourself why. What is it really disguising? Is it not more convenient to point out something that they can absolutely control and enforce and push the stuff that's harder to look at under the rug? Because guess what? If they were to start enforcing things around fitness and staying professional as it should actually pertain to the fire service, well, then they would have to take a look in the mirror. They would have to look at themselves first. And that's a hard thing to do for a lot of firefighters. What does your leadership signal say about you? Your conditioning will tell the crew what is acceptable and what is not without saying a word. It's kind of like when you're being squeezed. What comes out? You squeeze an orange. What comes out? Orange juice. Orange juice comes out. What about when you get squeezed? You don't squeeze an orange and grapefruit juice comes out. Why? Because that's not what's inside, right? It's an orange. Similar to you can put on whatever face you want, but when push comes to shove and pressure comes down, what's already there, the standards that you have, the physical readiness that you've prepared for is going to show itself, and you can't hide from it. There is no hiding from that in this moment, and you and those around you will see what's there. Who you are under pressure is who you are for real. I'll leave with this. While we talk on this idea of what is real professionalism in the fire service, we have to talk about one thing. The actual Merriam-Webster definition of professionalism. That's what I'll leave you with. And that definition is as follows. It is the skill, the good judgment, and the polite behavior that is expected from a person who is trained to do a job well. The skill, the good judgment, and the polite behavior that is expected from a person who is trained to do a job well. What part of that falls under the category of, I need to wear a collared shirt to truly be professional? By the way, it might be hard to believe this. I actually don't care that much about the collared shirt. I care that it's used as a thing to deflect from the real important matter, which is, are you in shape enough to be an asset to the department and do the job well? Does that come first? If it does and you want to wear a collared shirt, go for it. But don't ignore the most important piece and miss the forest for the trees. Your professionalism is determined by how well you can do the job long term, how well you take care of yourself, so that you can take care of others. And that is the life you signed up for. You gave up your right to be out of shape the day you signed on to do this job. And I will die on this hill. Now, if you have the desire to improve and you want the mental fortitude, the capacity, and the systems to do better within the fire service, then you know that I run the Reclaim Firefighter Fitness program. We have plenty of examples, whether we're talking about Kyle, who lost 40 pounds in his first 3 months and pretty much reversed all of his injuries, including a hamstring tear. Then we have Justin, a San Jose firefighter who lost 20 pounds in his first few months and increased his bottle time by almost double. And then we have Dave out in Pennsylvania, who is an officer on his own shift and is not just responsible for himself, but he's responsible for an entire crew and didn't have a lot of time, was still able to make it work and make massive improvements with the system. It all came back to one thing, though, with all of these individuals, which is, what is the mindset and the beliefs and the type of people they have to become first in order to achieve the results that they got? That is how they started. That is why I'm doing a podcast like this. It's because the belief building happens first. It's because you have to start acting like the person that you want to become before you have become them to make that transition. And if you start holding the same beliefs as that version of you that has achieved the results that you're looking for, as if you've already accomplished them, well, then how long will it be before that is actually your reality? So you want a certain result, then start mimicking the qualities and the beliefs of the people who have achieved them. And that's why this podcast exists. So if you're interested in that, there will be a link in the description to book a call with one of our enrollment coaches, see if we can come up with a personalized plan that would work for you, specifically designed for firefighters. If you're not a firefighter, all the best to you. Good luck. This is designed specifically for people in the fire service. So if you're not, don't bother. If you are and you want to stop spinning your wheels, you want to stop like starting again at zero, then check it out. Other than that, I'll leave you with one thing, which is a reminder. Remember, regardless of how you feel about the job, being in shape is part of the uniform. I'll talk to you guys next week.